All right, well, my son was born July 11th of 2007, and he had an emergency C-section where I wasn't even prepped. They just cut me open and took him out. So I was on a lot of antibiotics afterwards, and I breastfed him. So I feel like our journey started there. He started with not getting my good flora of coming out the vaginal canal and having me on antibiotics for the first several weeks of his life. He was a happy baby, he smiled, he was fussy at times, he spit up, but he met all of his milestones actually early. He actually started saying mom at 3 months of age, and it was all of our family and friends were just like, didn't believe it, and then they heard it and they're just like, wow. All of the gross motor skills stuff was really early, walking, crawling, sitting up. He was always strong, healthy. He was always 90th percentile for height and weight. And then at 6 months of age, we started feeding him food. And I wouldn't even call it food, it's just crap. We fed him crap. We fed him baby cereal, we fed him processed baby foods. And it kind of started there, like he started getting more fussy, like his bowel movements became abnormal. And they wanted to do his MMR vaccination at 12 months of age. And I actually decided, you know, he's not talking a lot, but he is talking some, why don't we wait? So we waited until 18 months where I felt like he was communicating well with us. And 2 days later, after his MMR vaccination, my son didn't speak for 2 years. And we watched him just fade, like he totally just faded away. And we started they were like, oh, well, he has sensory processing disorder. So we started with the early interventions right away. Like we started with the speech therapist and the occupational therapist and the developmental therapist coming to our home. And then about when he turned 2 years old, it got to the point where like, this isn't right. Like he's not responding to us anymore at all. He rarely smiles. He cries all the time. He's waking up in the middle of the night, like screaming horrifically. Like I actually thought he was having a seizure. Like I just didn't know what was wrong. Like he would just wake up and scream and nothing but a Baby Einstein video would like click him out of it. Like it was just like a horrific, somebody's cutting his leg off scream. It was just bizarre. So then I really started to be like, he's autistic, and I started to tell our friends and family, like, I think there's really more to this than sensory processing disorder. And a lot of people were in disbelief of it. They didn't really, like, no, and this is gonna be fine, you guys are doing everything you needed to do. And then I had a sister a few months after he turned 2, and then I just started researching. Like I didn't sleep for like 4 months. Like I would get up and I'd feed the baby, I'd research and put her to bed and do more research. And at that point, like I'm like, oh, Hayden's autistic, he really is, we're gonna start this diet. And I remember going to our pediatrician and saying, I think I'm gonna take dairy out of his diet. Like what do you think about that? And she asked, well, what does your son eat? Well, he drinks cup after cup of milk. He eats cheese. He eats cheese puffs. And he eats bread and fruit snacks and toaster strudels. She's like, you're gonna starve your child. That's what she told me. She looked point blank at me and told me I was gonna starve my child. And I asked her like what we should be doing. She referred us to a popular children's hospital to get testing done for autism, but she didn't think he had autism. But then she also told me he might not ever talk and suggested medication for his hyperbehavior. So I filled out the paperwork to go to the children's hospital, and the wait list was 6 months. And I'm like, I'm not gonna wait 6 months to do this. So pretty much the next day, like I started tapering dairy out of his diet. And his behavior like drastically improved without dairy. And then we took gluten out, and he continued to improve with that. So then we started to see a DAN doctor in our area, and we did all of the testing, and we ramped Hayden's supplements up to, at one point, 23 at a time, and we were seeing gains, but nothing like, whoa, this is really working. It wasn't like mapped gains. It was just, okay, you know, yeah, he's growing a little bit, he's developing. One of our biggest concerns was he wasn't gaining weight, he wasn't growing. Last summer he actually grew out of his 2T clothing, which he was in 2T from the age of 18 months to 5 years of age. He did not grow. Wore the same shoes. I didn't have to buy him stuff until it worn out. So then he turned 3, and that's when we aged out of the early intervention therapy program. And that's when we went into the school system, and I visited 15 different preschools to find a school for my son. And we found like this amazing Montessori school that's like, yes, we'll do his diet, we'll actually make the classroom like totally safe for him, so there's nothing in here he can eat that will harm him, and nurture him and love him. And then we also did therapy through the public school, which was a massive joke. They wanted my son that had a couple words at that point. They suggested 20 minutes of speech therapy a week. And so I took him to this, I tried it, and all the lady did was talk over him, and I just, like, we're not coming anymore, thank you. So then we sought out private therapy. We did private speech therapy and private occupational therapy. I looked, when we went and visited schools, we actually looked into ABA centers as well, and it just didn't feel good to me. Like, that just didn't feel like, oh, this is the therapy we should be doing. So we never ventured that avenue. It wasn't for us. But so we did the private therapy for about a year, and it was okay. Nothing really changed with that. I mean, he made a little progress with the therapy. He made some progress with the protocol, the DAN protocol that we were doing, but it wasn't like, oh, your son's, like, look at him, he's communicating. It was like, oh, he's telling me he wants a cracker. You know, it wasn't like anything to share with us or really play with us or give us eye contact. So then I came across Sunrise Therapy, and we did that. Like, I signed up for that, and we've been doing that for almost 2 years now. And that's made a good amount of progress in our son, because I feel like it helped heal ourselves. It was kind of an amazing journey. It was more healing for me than I think my son, in all honesty. It really showed me like that I could accept him and love him just the way he is and be totally happy with life. So we did that, and then at Sunrise, like, people were talking about the GAPS diet, and I got intrigued by it. So we started the GAPS diet, and that was mind-blowing. Like, he made huge changes with that diet. So we took out all of the grains, we took out all the refined sugars, we took out all the lactose, all the fruit, all the honey, and we slowly did the diet in phases where we introduced new foods, cooked different ways, and he really started to eat vegetables. Like, first time in a year, like, my son ate vegetables. And we're, you know, a year into GAPS now, and like, he begs for Brussels sprouts. Like, that is his big treat of the day. Like, I want Brussels sprouts, Mom. Okay, I can do that. Or he wants Lorax trees, which is broccoli. So he loves his broccoli, and steak. He's become a huge steak eater, which is kind of funny. So we did the GAPS diet, and he actually was at 28 pounds last April. And within 3 months' time, my son was 40 pounds. He was eating 12 pounds of meatballs a week. And these meatballs, like, I pureed liver and put them in them. I pureed vegetables. I soaked them in chicken broth. So they were like nutrient-dense power balls is what we called them. And he would just stuff his little cheeks full of them. And I remember him, like, waking up at 5 in the morning one day, like, wanting meatballs and, like, demanding them and yelling at me. And, like, it's like, oh my gosh, I'm not ready to make meatballs for the day. But it was amazing. So we did that, and then we also started, probably 5 months before we did GAPS, we did biotic silver, which is a form of colloidal silver. And we did that protocol, and he made gains with that too. Like, his language really improved, he became calmer, seen lots of yeast die-off symptoms, felt like he was doing great. So 6 months later, the person that was helping with us suggested that we stop. Just stop the silver, taper it down, and then just do the probiotics that was suggested. So that was in July, late July of 2012. So we did that, and slowly he left us again. Like, he had a huge regression this past fall, and it was just devastating. At first I was like, you know, this just happens. This just happens. Let's wait it out and see what happens. You know, we're going to keep up with the diet. We're going to keep doing our therapy. But it got to the point like where he ismed all day again. And it's like, what's going on? He became incredibly irritable again. He started humping his pillow insanely again. And that's what really pushed me to be like, I've got to be able to do something else. Like, there's something more out there. There's something more. So I had went back to Sunrise for more training, and there was a mom there that was using MMS, and she talked about it. And at first, like, you know, like I've never heard of it. I don't know what it is, but I'm going to write it down in my book, and I'll look it up later. And then I did, and I started watching I watched the videos, and then I'm like, well, hey, can you get me in contact with some other people that are using this? I want to really talk to them about it. And so I started calling these people, and like these people graciously gave their time to me and like really like answered my questions and made me feel at ease. And there's not one person that I talked to that had a negative thing to say about it. Like they said we had die-off. Yeah, I've experienced die-off. I can do die-off. Die-off is the road to recovery. Like, you got to kill this stuff to feel better. And I actually had a friend that's a chemist. I'm like, hey, could you look at this chemical and tell me, like, what do you think? And she's like, you don't have anything to worry about. The way you're dosing it and doing it, the FDA uses it to wash, or they've approved it to wash vegetables and produce and stuff with it. So I'm like, wow, this makes sense. So I emailed Carrie, like, I remember, like, on the computer screen, like, a list of questions. And she emailed me back. She's like, can I just call you? And I'm thinking, what? She's just going to call me? Like, this person's just going to give her time and call me and answer me questions. Like, the mother of all of this is just going to call me. And I'm like, so I told my other friend that was looking into it at the same time, I'm like, oh, Carrie's going to call me tomorrow. So I remember talking to Carrie on the phone, and she was actually walking her dog at the time. And she just answered all my questions. And after I got off the phone, I ordered the stuff. And I had the stuff already, and I decided, you know what, we're going to wait till after Christmas to start this for some random weird reason. So we did. December 26th, that morning, 7 a.m., my son got his first dose. And it's just been remarkable. We started with an ATEC of 57, and 2 weeks ago, my son's a 9. Mind-blowing. He went from humping his pillow like a madman to he doesn't hump his pillow anymore at all, which for us, like, we felt like that was yeast related. He's dumping tons of parasites, biofilm, liver flukes. Like, it's just amazing the stuff that comes out of him still. We're on our 5th parasite protocol actually now, and it just blows my mind, like, what is coming out of him. And the change in him, like, there's not one person around us that it's not like, wow. I mean, I tell people, like, I've always told people, there will be one day when my son's not autistic anymore. Like, I have believed that from the start. Like, it's just not possible he's going to be autistic all his life. Like, we're going to recover. He's going to recover. So it's really cool to see those people like, wow, what did you do? And then I tell them, and they look like at me like, you're crazy. And I'm like, yeah, it takes a hardcore person to do this. Like, this isn't just something that happens. Like, you have to actively pursue treatment for your child and stand up for them and educate yourselves and educate your friends and the community and the doctors and all of them. One of the biggest exciting things that has happened recently, the Montessori school that he was attending when he was from the age of 3 to 4, they said they didn't want him to come back after the first year. And we took him 2 weeks ago for an interview, and the teacher that had him was she came and wanted to see how he was doing. And she looked at me with tears in her eyes, and she's like, it's like you never had autism. She's just like, I don't know, I can't believe it. Like, she's just like, it's like he never had anything wrong with him. And wow. Like, it's just mind-blowing to me that I took my my severely autistic child at one time. I took him and I dropped him off in a classroom that he's never been in before. And Montessori is very kind of chaotic. Like there's children, it's not like organized, like everybody sits and does their work at this time. Like they all like pick different work off the shelves and they do it and they're doing different things. And there's a hum to the classroom. And I thought this is gonna be so overstimulating for him. But to observe him, like he was so calm and he followed directions and he told the teacher what he wanted to do. He played with the other children. He was smiling. He was just another kid. He was just another kid in that classroom. My husband, who through this journey he doesn't really get excited about the things that he's doing. It's just him. And yesterday, we've been trying to get him to ride the ponies at the zoo for the last year or so. His sister really enjoys it. And he'll go up to him and kind of look at him, but he's not gonna do it. Like, not touching that pony, I'm not getting on the pony. And he texts me a picture of my son with the biggest smile on his face riding the pony. And he's like, I was in tears. I was in tears. I couldn't believe that he was open to riding this pony and just being out of control, like, because you don't have control when you're on a horse. He just gave up control, which is so huge for our children.